Hello everybody, hello, how are we doing? I really need to figure out a better way of stopping the fucking music so loudly. How are we all doing? Sorry there was no JEI since solo stream last week, well, yesterday, but it is what it is. I really did want to get it working. I even pulled 2 all-nighters trying to get it to work, but oh my god, were there so many problems that I just could not fix in time. But yeah, I'm still working on that at the moment, and well, I think I'll be saving the results of that for our next solo stream next week, because I think you guys will like it. At least I'm hoping you guys will like it. And I'm hoping by then as well her voice should also be finished. Bro just died? What do you mean I just died? I've been dying. How it's been these last couple of weeks. And oh my god. Let me just tell you what kind of struggles I've been dealing with when trying to make a new model for her recently. Right? First of all, I was trying to make a new data set to fine-tune a new model for her, but oh my god, was it fucking terrible. I wanted to make one just by talking to her and then filtering out the good responses from the bad, right? It was a terrible experience. It was a terrible fucking idea. Every single time I tried talking to her, she would devolve into some random ass speech, and nothing was usable. I talked to her for 3 hours and I got maybe 1 sample point out of that, and then I just discarded the rest. And then I decided to download another dataset off of Aggle or Hugging Face and then use that, but I had so many fucking problems with that as well. Just problems with the model never stopping, the model never generating the stop sequence. It just generating the rest of the script a bunch of garbage, not even speaking English and stuff like that. I tried getting it to work for the last stream, but I still had problems where like there was a 10% chance where she would just never stop speaking, and that would honestly break the entire stream. So I just couldn't stream yesterday with that new model. And I really don't want to like have to try and stream with the OpenAI model anymore, because it's not gonna lie, maybe you guys feel this too, but like I'm dying of cringe every single fucking solo stream. But yeah, anyways, today we're gonna be doing a little bit of a shorter stream. Hopefully we get to keep this. No, I'm gonna keep this to 2 hours because I have a promise. I promised somebody I would be doing something at 5:30. But yeah, today basically we're just gonna be checking out what the fuck are knowledge graphs. I'm pretty sure I did have a previous stream where I tried looking at it, at least very briefly, but I did not know what the fuck was going on for that. But I guess like, I don't know, I haven't really looked into it besides like maybe 10 minutes since last time, mainly because I've been so busy with all this other model stuff. But I think I guess we can spend the first hour kind of figuring out what the hell a knowledge graph is, and then we can spend like, I don't know, maybe the last half of the stream, the last hour, we can try and implement our own super shitty version of a knowledge graph and see how that goes. And then offline, I'll do some more research and see if there's actually any third-party provided knowledge graphs, which I'm pretty sure there should be. It's not like a uncommon thing to have. You don't even have enough points for pipes anymore? Let's keep it that way. Limit enjoy whatever you're gonna do. You're gonna be leaving. Why'd you say that if you're not gonna be leaving? 1,000 points gone. Let's go. Okay, but yeah, Jay Eisen, I'm not gonna run her until her next solo stream because I want to keep that a surprise. So yeah, there's not going to be any Jay Eisen today, so you guys are stuck with me. I know you guys love me. You don't have to say it. Yeah, you don't need to worry about this because this is just fine-tuning stuff for her new model. And I'm miking so hard I can only read chat. Lol, what is Limit saying? He's probably gooning. Not far off. I'm gonna be gooning to knowledge graphs today. Name a sexier thing than knowledge graphs. I'll wait. Oh my god. The one thing I've been using Windows 11 for like, what, 2 weeks now? I fucking hate this window snapping. I can't snap the window to the edges of the screen anymore if there's like another screen above it. Alright. Oh my god, this isn't even like, here we go. What are we searching for first? Skill issue? It's not a skill issue. They just removed a fucking functionality. They removed some quality of life. That's what it is. Knowledge graph. Let's figure out what the hell a knowledge graph even is for AI. Those who don't get ads because they can't even load the video. So true. Just get worse internet. Alright. Introducing knowledge graphs. Sponsored? Don't care. Let's see what this says. By the way, I was thinking about this, but we need like more content for these streams, right? Because so far all we've been doing is like Jay Eisen solo streams, my development streams, and then some gameplay streams, which is honestly for the most part just me playing games, and that's about it. Should we also have like, I don't know, I was thinking of trying to think of like other content ideas. Who here watches like the Primeagen or or whatever, right? I was thinking maybe we could do like, you could let her play chess with viewers. I was thinking of that for the future as well. A lot of the game playing stuff is going to be stuff for the future, but I was thinking like stuff in between now and then. I was thinking like, what if I did, I don't know, blog post reactions or like reading article reactions or whatever, giving my opinion on that kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys would want to see that or not. I don't know. But my impression is like, you guys just want to see J.E. Eisen working and doing stuff, or me yapping about code and whatever. So I'm not really sure what you guys want to see. Bro, why can't I move J.E. Eisen? Oh my god. I thought J.E. Eisen was broken. She is broken. I just keep her on the screen because it's like easier to set things up. Oh, okay. Whenever I moved J.E. Eisen in OBS, it moves me entirely. Okay, I'm so confused. What the hell? Hold on. You see this? Bro, what is going on here? Oh, fuck, I cannot fix it. They're supposed to be locked. I don't know why they're moving. Oh my god. Oh, whoops, that's not what I want to move up. And oh my gosh, this is a pain. Okay, move. Oh my god. Move. Fucking hell. Move. This is... Oh my god, I hate groups. I figured out the problem. It's groups. Groups are the problem. Are we looking at Neo4j? Or why Neo4j for knowledge graphs? I just want to figure out what a knowledge graph is right now. Hold on, I'm rearranging stuff in OBS because this thing is being an ass right now. There we go. Oh my god, that took forever. There we go. Black screen? No, there is no black screen. You're the black screen. Okay. Why Neo4j for knowledge graphs? I do not fucking care because I'm not using JavaScript. But I want to learn more. What is a knowledge graph? Sure. We have some general diagrams of what they are here. Just slap a vector database with hopes and prayers. Yeah, that's what we have for our J.E. Eisen at the moment. But I just want to like improve our memory module a little bit. Because right now it is like super basic, right? And I would like there to be some, I don't know, some better semblance of actual memory as opposed to fetching the most relevant information. I don't know. This page doesn't really say anything. Well, let's read their articles here. What is this? What the hell is an RDF? RDF versus property graphs. What is a knowledge graph? Okay, here we go. No, I missed 500 hours. You all missed 500 hours. 500 hours was from yesterday's all-nighter. Oh my god, I need to stop pulling all-nighters, man. It's what, Thursday? I've already pulled 3 all-nighters. I've gotten maybe a collective 6 hours of sleep. In fact, I was gonna say this yesterday. I wanted to say this yesterday, but then we never had the stream, but it's fucked. I pulled an all-nighter, no sleep, and then walked into a midterm, absolutely flopped it, came back and continued working on J.E. Eisen for it to not work. Like, what the hell? Oh my god. At this rate, I should just like, I might as well drop out of university. This is my last term anyways. Alright. Knowledge graphs. A knowledge graph is an organized representation of real-world entities and their relationships. Actually, let me turn down the music a little bit because I cannot hear myself think. There we go. Jay Ison is cooking you? Literally. These past 3 nights, it has just been my GPU firing off at 80 degrees Celsius for like 20 hours a day. It's actually a space heater. It's crazy how hot it gets in here. Yeah. Let's start from the top. A knowledge graph is an organized representation of real-world entities and their relationships. It is typically stored in a graph database, which natively stores the relationships between data entities. Entities in a knowledge graph can represent objects, events, situations, or concepts. The relationships between these entities capture the context and meaning of how they are connected. So, what this is basically reminding me of is, you know, Obsidian? Obsidian and their kind of like graphs and stuff? Obsidian graph view. It's reminding me of this, right? Where you kind of have like topics, and then a connecting node, which converges a bunch of topics, where the edge is kind of like a relationship. So I can have like a node for friends, and then stretching off of that branch would be something like each of my friends, kind of describing them, right? That's kind of like how I'm imagining this would work. So each thing would be like a concept, such as like friends, or an actual object like limits, J-A-I-SIN. I don't know, Twitch chat, something like that. But a graph database. This is my first time hearing about a graph database. Specialized type of database that uses graph structures to represent and store data. So it's like a massive graph as opposed to a massive table, I guess. Or I guess it would be a table, but it just has like an adjacency list. Something like that. I don't know. Let's keep reading. A knowledge graph stores data and relationships alongside frameworks known as organizing principles. Organizing principles, okay. They can be thought of as rules or categories around the data that provide a flexible conceptual structure to drive deeper data insights. The usefulness of a knowledge graph lies in the way it organizes the principles, data, and relationships to surface new knowledge for your user or business. The design is useful for many usage patterns, including real-time application, search and discovery, and grounding generative AI. Grounding generative AI. They even have a fucking link for this. And no, okay. Yeah, that's kind of like the reason why we need all of this context stuff, right? To ground generative AI. I noticed, especially in my testing, that if I let J.E. Ison kind of rant off of herself, and you'll see this with Neurosama as well. If people aren't talking to her, if she isn't constantly being fed relevant information about the current situation that's going on, they kind of get lost and they kind of start rambling about random shit. I completely understand what this means. Don't worry, Haku. I'm sure you'll get this with like 1 more hour of coding. Have you been keeping up with coding, by the way? You coded for like that 1 hour and that was it. Maybe I'll do a stream where I try and teach you how to code for the first time. How about that? But yeah, this concept of organizing principles. I guess this is like a bunch of rules for when and when not to connect stuff. I suppose you can use an AI to do this, but I don't know. Whenever you're creating a new node inside of your graph, how do you decide what nodes to even connect to? Because there could be like an infinite number of nodes that you could relate to. But I guess you would limit to some amounts. The top like 100 or so. I'm not sure. Also limit, pick the third option for the prediction. Alright, fine. Third. 0%. Nice, everyone's getting scammed. Also, there's 2 3s. There's 2 3s in your poll. I'm gonna pick this 30 because I don't know which 30. Explain it in Fortnite terms. Holy shit. How do I even explain this in Fortnite terms? It's hard as well because I
Pipe
don't
sound
even play
screebang dang ban
Fortnite.
scra. You are welcome for the impressive pipe sounds and please give me 500 pipe back or Jason gets it at Miley1 Kitty.
Incredible budget pipe. Also, you are not getting 500 point pipes back, not until inflation is over. You can't hurt me with Neko limits. Alright, sometimes people overcomplicate the concept of a knowledge graph. You might hear about enterprise-wide structures that consolidate and connect information across data silos and various sources. While that does describe the knowledge graph, it describes one with a wide
Pipe,
scope.
pipe, pipe,
Oh my God.
pipe, 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 pipe.
Are we good? Thinking only in terms of bridging large datasets and multiple data sources can make creating and implementing knowledge graphs seem complicated and time-consuming. But knowledge graphs don't need to be broad and elaborate, blah 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 blah, okay, whatever. How knowledge graphs work. You may have heard knowledge graphs in the context of search engines. The Google Knowledge Graph changed how we search for and find information on the web. It amasses facts about people, places, and things into an organized network of entities. So this is basically saying, like, I guess... I've never seen Google's knowledge graph before. What is this? Introducing the knowledge graph. Things, not strings. Find the right thing. Taj Mahal. I guess it's kind of like a... Fuck, what's it called? Google Rank? Google Rank, is that what that algorithm's called? I don't know. That just kind of reminded me of Google Rank. Google Rank, yeah. Where it's like, it tries to connect things based off of, or it tries to put the most relevant links on top, but it decides what's the most relevant by looking through all the other websites and then counting the amount of times that link was referenced or something like that. So Google's knowledge graph, I'm not sure how this is different from it, besides the fact that instead of using links as the connections, it's using concepts as the connections. Yo, Limit, why don't you let J.E. Eisen collaborate with Hilda? Totally forgot about her. Thing is, Hilda, waifu dev. The thing is, right now, for J.E. Eisen, I don't really want her to collab with anybody until a certain stage in her development. That's kind of what I told Haku as well, because I remember Haku in the very beginning when I started streaming, he was like super adamant about getting me collabs and stuff, and I was like, okay bro, you need to simmer down a little, okay? I'll collab eventually, just not at the moment, not with like J.E. Eisen always being broken in or anything, right? I want J.E. Eisen to be in a really solid state, and in a state where she can actually hold engaging conversations and stuff before I actually let her collab with other people. I just don't want them to die of cringe. I don't want to collab with somebody and then like potentially never collab with them again because the collab was just so cringe for them. Yeah. Limit, you know, like everyone gets 500 points when the stream starts? Yeah, because of the 5-minute intro. Yeah. Alright. When you do a Google search for information, it uses a connection between entities to surface the most relevant result in context. For example, in the box Google calls the knowledge panel. This is the knowledge panel? I suppose that's the knowledge panel. Okay. So I guess this is different from Google ranking, which I guess makes sense. Hey, what's up, gamers? What's up, gamer? The entities in a Google Knowledge Graph represent the world as we know it, marking a shift from strings to things. Behind this simple phrase is a profound concept of treating information on the web as entities rather than a bunch of text. So instead of Google Rank looking at the literal URLs, the literal content of that website, and saying how relevant that is to the Google search, instead they're actually using more of a way of strings to things.
Pipe sounds, pipe sounds, pipe sounds, pipe sounds, a wooga.
Turning that website and whatever into an actual concept and then using that for ranking, I guess is what they're trying to say. Key characteristics. Now that you understand knowledge graphs and now that you understand how knowledge graphs organize and access data with context, let's look at the... They did not even talk about how knowledge graphs are organized or how they access data. What are they on about? Let's look at the building blocks of a knowledge graph and data model. The definition of knowledge graph varies depending on whom you ask, okay, whatever. We have nodes, relationships, and organizing principles. So kind of like how we discussed earlier. Nodes. Nodes denote and store details about entities such as people, places, objects, or institutions. Each node has a label to identify the node type and may potentially or may optionally have one or more properties. Nodes are sometimes called vertices. Yeah, that's just basic graph stuff. So we have something like, if you were doing e-commerce or something, if you had an online store, you might have inside of your database something like an order, then the ID. So this would be a node inside of our graph. Or you can have, I guess, in the case of us, a friend that points to this node, person. This person is named Daniel, and then maybe you can have some other stuff like, who is Daniel, what do they like, blah, 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 stuff connected to Daniel. Or maybe you can make those as different nodes. I'm not sure what the best practice for that is. And then product down here, yep. Relationships, so this would be like an edge, pointing from one thing to another. Relationships link two nodes together. They show how relationships are related. Like nodes, each relationship has a label identifying the relationship type and may optionally have one or more properties. Relationships are also known as edges, okay? Yeah. So this person, Daniel, placed an order, and this order has an ID of 100. So that is kind of like their relationship. How would that work inside of a knowledge graph for an AI? I suppose it could be something like, I don't know, you can think of it like a family tree, right? Family tree, you could have one person, say Daniel, say this person is Limit. You can say Daniel, friends with Limit, or Daniel, father of Limit, blah, 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 right? Something like that. How do we denote what this edge represents? I guess that would be its own separate entry inside the database, which is kind of weird because I'm not used to the notion of having a literal object as an edge, but okay. Organizing principles. This is probably the most complicated part. Organizing principles are a framework or schema that organizes nodes and relationships according to fundamental concepts essential to the use case at hand. Unlike many data designs, knowledge graphs easily incorporate multiple organizing principles. Okay. Organizing principles range from simple, product line to product category to product taxonomy, to more complex, so a complete business vocabulary that explains the data in the graph. Oh, I'm not sure what this entirely entails. Think of an organizing principle as a conceptual map or metadata layer overlaying the data and relationships in the graph. Conceptual map or metadata layer overlaying the data. I'm not really sure what this is trying to describe. Besides it being a description of what the graph entirely looks like. The model uses same node relationship structure as the rest of the knowledge graph to represent the organizing principles.
When will the pipe inflation stabilize?
When supply meets demand. How about that? Which means you can write queries that draw from both instance data and organizing principles. Product type and categories. So organizing principle would just be like an overall description or the general structure for what it should look like.
What's your demands?
What's your demands? When pipes aren't being flinged every minute. I guess it's not even being flinged every minute anymore. I feel like it has stabilized pretty well. I think 1,000 is a good cost, you know? I think 1,000 is a good price for pipes. Hold on, water break. Alright. So, what about ontologies?
10 subs?
10 subs? 10 subs to bring inflation back down to 500? Deal or no deal? Alright, what the fuck is an ontology? I've never heard of this before. When learning about knowledge graphs, you might have come across an article about ontologies and wondered where they fit in. An ontology is a formal specification of the concepts and the relationships between them. Formal specification of the concepts and the relationships between them for a given subject area. So how's that any different from organizing principles? Semantic networks are a common way to represent ontologies. Put simply, ontologies are a type of organizing principle, so I was right. Ontologies can be complex and require a great deal of effort to define and maintain. When deciding whether an ontology is needed, it's critical to consider the problems you're
Okay,
trying to
that is
solve.
not that hard. I thought you will say when you start get JSON functions fixes and suggestions for future proof code helping. We dodged a bullet or I just shot us all right now.
Wait. Okay, that is not as hard as I thought. You will say when you start to get JSON function fixes, suggest future proof coding, helping. Oh. Nah, the inflation on pipes is entirely to do with Twitch chat, nothing to do with JSON. It's critical to consider. I don't think I'm going to do anything with ontology specifically. Knowledge graph example. Organizing principles versus instance data. Wait.
Limit this as your lawyer speaking. You should take the 10 subs deal and you should only lower the price of pipes by about 250.
By about 250? So what, down to 750 points for pipes for 10 gifted subs? You guys want your pipes back? You gotta gift your subs. Fucking extortion. Alright, it seems like organizing principles, this is just categories. So organizing principles is kind of different from the rest of the things down here. So organizing principles is, I guess, concepts, right? And there can be hierarchy to concepts. And then the actual rest of the graph.
Ignore the idiot who sent the last TTS.
Yeah. The rest of the instance data, so like the actual nouns and people and actual concrete stuff, concrete objects, they would point to certain concepts that they are related to. Although so something like person, maybe there would be a new category, and then under that category there can be like relationships, so family, friends, stuff like that. Oh my god. How am I going to implement a simple version of this today? Alright, knowledge graph and graph databases. Creating a knowledge graph involves conceptually mapping the graph. What are you going to use this for? I wanted to
Set pipes to free and I'll gift 1 billion later trust.
Yeah, sure. That's totally gonna happen. I was going to try and see how well knowledge graphs perform in terms of instilling concept-specific knowledge. So like you've heard of like RAG, right? And then there's this new quote-unquote newer concept of CAG, concept augmented generation. So I want to see if this is knowledge graphs are more along the lines of knowledge or concept augmented generation, right? Where you're not really getting back blocks of information, but you're rather getting back concepts and I guess very specific facts about people. So I wanted to see if this would improve accuracy in terms of getting relevant information about like, oh, who are my friends and stuff like that, as opposed to having to go through conversations and hopefully pulling something about that person that you can then speak about, right? Because taking blocks of a script is gonna have much lower accuracy than something like a knowledge graph. And so I kind of do want to combine the usage of both of them, but I'm still not sure about knowledge graphs because I've never seen or touched knowledge graphs before. Guys, please don't bully me. I just want to read. I'm already like barely able to read as is. Alright, knowledge graphs and graph databases. Creating a knowledge graph involves conceptually mapping the graph data and model and then implementing it in a database. There are many databases to choose from, but choosing the right one can simplify the design process, speed up development, blah 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 blah. Alright, this is where it starts turning into a sponsor segment. Okay. Neo4j, oh wow, who could have guessed? Neo4j suggesting Neo4j. Whatever. Yeah, I use Graph RAG to work at work, and it's pretty cool. It works if you handle the database well. Graph RAG. Is this a graph database? It looks like it. Microsoft open source. Welcome to Graph RAG. Ooh, doesn't this look pretty? I'm guessing each color is like their own concept or category. And then the bigger ones are the ones that are have more connections.
Look at this femboy talking about his graphs and databases. Ha 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 ha.
It's not funny. Graphs are a very serious topic. Graph RAG is a structured hierarchical approach to RAG as opposed to naive semantic search approaches. Yup. Graph RAG process involves extracting knowledge graph out of raw text and building a community hierarchy, generating summaries for these communities. This was a concept like a year ago? Yeah. I know this was a concept a year ago. I'm just making the connection to concept as a concept augmented generation as opposed to RAG because, I don't know. Technically, concept augmented generation is kind of like RAG. It's just like a different kind of information is being retrieved. graph RAG versus baseline RAG. I'll look into this in a moment, but I might be adding this or playing around with this mainly for knowledge graphs. Yeah, natively, blah blah blah, databases. Don't care. What is this? Property graph versus triple stores. What is hell is an RDF? I guess they talk about it over here. Alright, people sometimes think of property graphs and triple stores as equally viable options for building a knowledge graph, but triple stores, also known as RDF, databases have considerable disadvantages. Based on the Resource Description Framework, RDF, triple stores use a granular approach to design and storage. Triple stores express all data in the form of subject, predicate, object. Subject, predicate, object. What is a predicate again? I don't know. This model does not support relationships with properties or multiple same-typed relationships between entities. Multiple same-typed relationships between entities. Okay. To accommodate real-world uses, you will need to implement workarounds. Common workarounds include turning relationships into objects or using singleton properties to capture properties using extra type of relationships. So, okay, I'm guessing what this is saying is like if you have multiple nodes, right? They're all connected to one single node. Now, one single node can only have a unique relationship between each of those other nodes, right? So you can have one mother, one father, but you can't have two brothers or two sisters. You can only have one brother or one sister. Because how do I say this word? Reification, and singleton properties force tough decisions about the design upfront. Triple stores don't lend themselves to solving real-world problems that involve messy data domains. Knowledge graphs built on a triple store are more challenging, so okay. General takeaway, do not use RDFs is what I'm hearing. Property versus relational databases. Relational databases and other non-native graph approaches suffer similar design friction. I'm gonna say because nested querying and traversing of the graph will take significantly longer. Neither relational nor document databases store relationships. Yup. They must be synthesized at runtime with joins or value lookups in query code, which joins on databases with thousands or hundreds of or millions of entries can take a very, very long time. Longer than most AI queries, to be honest. Since the relationships reside in the code rather than the database, each application and data use must have its own implementation. SQL forces you to define every join in the query itself. As a result, the knowledge graph becomes more difficult to manage and yields poor runtime performances as the number of relationships expand. So yeah, complexity not very good if it is not already built to handle graphs. Managing knowledge graphs gets extremely complicated as it grows is what I found out, lol. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's the case for any graph, especially once I guess it's we're starting to reach an area where space and time complexity actually matters, because I feel like if you keep the same knowledge graph or relational database or vector database for years on end, you're gonna end up accumulating hundreds of thousands or millions of entries. And then at that point, you actually do need to start thinking about the performance of your system, because those queries can start to take seconds, which really add up, especially now that our system is running significantly faster, where a second could be doubling the actual response time. And when latency is very important to us, we want to minimize that as much as possible. So I guess like there is like the option of like, oh, you could have a knowledge graph, but then every single thing is connected to each other, like fully connected graph. But then that's just terrible in terms of performance. So we need some sort of, I guess, what the fuck did they call it? Organizing principle, or some way of constructing the graph that minimizes the number of connections that we have. It's the relationships that are hard to manage. When you have hundreds of nodes, the number of possibilities of relationships is insane. Yeah, like when you insert a node, we need to figure out all the relationships that we do want to establish, that we are certain we want. If we add too many, it adds a lot of compute time and it makes traversing the graph very noisy and very expensive. But if we do too little, then it could be hard to answer some questions like who is limit, what is Project JEISIN? It might be hard to connect the two. Knowledge graph use cases, blah, 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 I don't care. Supply, chain management, getting started with knowledge graphs. Yeah, okay, whatever. And then this is the RDF versus property graph stuff. We already kind of took a look at this. What's in RDF? What are our property graphs? This might be interesting to look at. Advantages of using property graphs. ROI. What is ROI? Return on investment, right? I don't really care about that. I have a feeling that Neo4j is selling a property graph as opposed to an RDF. Because look at this fucking graph. Tell me this is not biased. Either RDF is literally the worst thing in the world or this is hella biased. Fucking 10-0. Us versus the competitors. 1000% more efficient than leading brands. Alright, what are property graphs? Alright, what are property graphs? Information is organized as nodes, relationships, and properties in a property graph. Wow, who would have guessed property is my property graph? I would have never guessed that. Nodes are tagged with one or more labels, identifying their role in the network. One or more labels. And how are they tagged with labels? I guess, by the organizing principles. Nodes can also store any number of properties as key value pairs. Relationships provide directed, named connections between nodes. Relationships always have a direction, so they're always directional. A type and a start node and an end node. Of course, it's a fucking directional thing. And they have properties just like nodes. Although relationships are always directed, they can be navigated efficiently in either direction. So I guess this is your example here, right? Daniel is the brother of Sunita, and Sunita is the sister of Daniel. Woohoo. This looks like those financial graphs that look like such a huge increase, but it's actually just a 20% increase. Exactly. Fucking, they be using logarithmic scale, but it's fucking inverted. So then when you get like closer up, higher up, the differences are smaller and smaller. Or when they start to fucking scale at like 100 or something, so the competitors are like barely a millimeter tall, whereas theirs is like fucking a million times taller, even though it's really just like a 20% increase. Music is so loud. I don't think it's that loud. I guess maybe compared to me it's loud. Hold on. I don't think I actually applied any filters to my mic ever since re-downloading OBS. Yeah, I did not put any fucking gain on it. Okay, here we go. Brace your ears. How's this? Turn up the music. I can still hear limit. Okay, buddy. Okay. Yeah, how's this now? Should be better, I hope. Alright, the property graph was designed to be a flexible and efficient way to store connected data, allowing for fast querying and traversal. It follows the important. Could be the song too, could be. You know what? The music is already as quiet as I can put it. I don't know. Yeah. It follows the important principle of storing data in a format that closely resembles the logical model. Like how we might sketch out the data model on a whiteboard. Okay, sure. The property graph model reflects a logical data model. Okay. But I want to... Okay, that's literally all they had for that section. I wanted to know how do we fucking dynamically establish these relationships besides using an AI model to set those. Okay, well, I guess there's not much more information we can get out of this. Yeah. Then what about Graph RAG? Graph RAG. Graph RAG is a structured hierarchical approach to RAG.
How do you plan when it is released the project JSON to run on any computer? Running AI is not easy to run, for the good models, and we run this on Python that is slow. No offense. Also, how are we making this into an X file even if this is the least of the problems compared to the whole project?
EXE files, we can use Py2exe. This will take some configuration to do, but you can convert it any Py project into in .exe as long as you include all the right dependencies and all that stuff. Usage of AI models in Python is not slow because Python is built off of C. Python is built off of C, and so a lot of libraries that you do end up using are actually C-based, right? Something like NumPy is C-based with a Python wrapper around it. So the API is in Python, but then the actual implementation is machine code. Something like, for the majority of Python-based projects that run models locally, they're using Llama CPP, right? And Llama CPP, as you can probably tell from the name, is written in C++. And they have their own Python wrapper around this as well, so you can use this as a library inside of Python. Right now, I'm currently using Cobalt and LM Studio, but those are also using Llama Studio as kind of like their inference engine, right? And depending on which version of Llama CPP you install, you can download it for different versions, depending on the device. So you have versions for Windows using CUDA for NVIDIA, or you can also download it for Vulkan in order to use it with AMD GPUs or even CPU. And I've been doing a little bit of testing. I haven't tried it with CPU just yet, but I'm pretty sure it should be possible to run a very small model, like a 1 billion parameter model, fine-tune the hell out of it to get it to work for your use case and actually stop properly. And then you should be able to run that on CPU. Not as fast, it won't be like hundreds of tokens per second, but maybe you can get like, I don't know, 7 tokens a second, which means you would have to wait like 10 seconds for a response, but it is still technically runnable on CPU. Something like Mellow TTS is also runnable on CPU, I have confirmed that. Everything is already runnable on CPU, which is a surprise, because I thought, when I was going into this project, I thought that, okay, I'm gonna have to deal with somehow getting this to work on majority of machines, even though like we most likely need some sort of neural processing unit or GPU in order to run this project. But having played around with it a lot more, I think CPU is a viable option, and I don't have to rely on the fact on waiting for like technology to improve or AI technology to improve before this project actually becomes like a reality in terms of running on different devices or any device really. Mellow plug right now, use it peeps, so you're welcome, Noel. You know, truth be told, I don't think Noel even uses Mellow, at least not anymore. No, Mellow is good. Mellow has been good. You talk to me? I mean, yeah. You still use Mellow? Oh, I thought you said you were using like Kokoro or something. You're experimenting with Kokoro. Okay. Mellow is cool. Mellow is cool. But it's like kind of the same thing when it comes to RVC where it has a bunch of dependencies. So if you want to run it inside of your project, it is kind of a pain unless if you like, I don't know. I still don't know how to really convert it into a simpler like Onyx or GGUF or whatever. I don't know if you really can. You probably can, but I don't know. With all the input parameters and all that stuff, I don't know how to fucking set it up. I got Mellow and RVC to work on Windows. Nice, nice. But yeah, I was thinking like I want to like move away from having Cobalt as a separate process that needs to be downloaded and then booted up every time you want to start Project JEISIN, and instead just directly make use of Llama CPP, because there are like, I don't know. I feel like it would be nice to go lower level on it and keep it within the same process. It also makes it easier for like building and distributing in a way. Although I don't think that's really the case, because Cobalt already comes bundled with all the different backend engines for Llama CPP. I don't know. Still something I'm like deciding, but I know for a fact that I do want to add Llama CPP into the project at some point. Do note, the Whisper CPP builds available for Windows do not include CUDA support. They are very slow. For like the Whisper models, you mean, right? When running on Llama CPP, they are very slow. They did not include CUDA support. Why wouldn't they include CUDA support? Really? Whisper CPP. Cobalt is the only precompiled way to do GPU accelerated Whisper C++ on Windows. How the fuck did they achieve that? Did they just like write their own integration with CUDA support or CUDA acceleration? Whisper CLI, quick start. They compiled it with CUDA. It shouldn't be too complicated to compile, because they literally have the instructions here. With NVIDIA cards, the processing of models can be done efficiently using QBlast, which is, I'm pretty sure, what Cobalt does. Custom CUDA kernels. Yeah, okay. Anyways, you're leaving again? Alright, goodbye, Noel. It's pretty easy to compile your own Whisper CPP. Yeah. It should be pretty easy to compile, and they have the instructions here to do it with CUDA, so. And also Vulkan and all that other stuff, right? So I can literally like compile different versions of Llama CPP, Whisper CPP, bundle them together, and then in every release of Project JEISIN, I can just include these binaries inside of Project JEISIN. And so you don't need to compile and download them yourself, or even like install the correct ones, right? As long as you're downloading the correct version of Project JEISIN, you would also get that as well. Honestly, pretty impressed by their speeds. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's just as fast as any other inference engine, but it's just the fact that, I don't know, just the fact that it's like a quantized model, so it's smaller. If you are using their quantized models, I assume. Base Q5, base Q5. I think you can even get away with Q4. I think Q4 is pretty good. Q4 on base. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm using. I don't know. I haven't checked in a while. Yeah, that was a side tangent. So we were looking at GraphRAG, which is a graph database specifically for RAG and specifically for storing knowledge. We might use this one. I might experiment with this one today, but I'll still need to look offline for other solutions if there are, I don't know, more lean solutions that we can use. Limit, my AI stuff at work is good. Our VP and org wants me to demo it. Our org of like 200 peeps. Congrats, man. Wait, what did you end up doing for your AI, the AI feature in the end? Or can you not say NDA moment? GraphRAG versus baseline RAG. I can be vague. I mean, you don't have to say it in Twitch chat if you don't want to. GraphRAG versus baseline RAG. RAG, blah blah blah, we already know what RAG is. Technique to improve LLM outputs using real-world information. This technique, okay. This is baseline RAG, right? This is a traditional RAG that we have been talking about so far in terms of giving context with stuff like Twitch chat, with stuff like internet documents, stuff like that. GraphRAG uses knowledge graphs to provide substantial improvements in question and answer performance when reasoning about complex information. So this will allow us to more concretely answer stuff like who is Limit, what is Project J.A. Eisen, and learning the relationships between the two and stuff like that. RAG techniques have shown promise in helping LLMs to reason about private datasets, yes, learning private industry-specific knowledge, data that the LLM is not trained on and has never seen before, so no need for fine-tuning, the information is just there in documents, such as enterprise proprietary research, business documents, or communications. Baseline RAG was created to help solve this problem, but we observe situations where baseline RAG performs very poorly, which is the problems that I am most concerned about with my current implementation. They struggle to connect the dots, yes, and they also perform poorly when being asked to holistically understand, summarize semantic concepts. So getting a grasp of the whole picture as opposed to just very specific answers, which I guess makes sense because when it comes to semantic databases, you are breaking up a document into specific independent chunks. And so if you wanted to get information about the whole thing, you would need to retrieve every single chunk, which may be more than your query limit. Also, Lux says, this project is a hierarchical specialized agents that interact with cloud resources and then figuring out how to seamlessly integrate into a UX. Ooh, okay. Bro's releasing his swarm of agents on the fucking cloud. And figure out how to seamlessly integrate into a UX. So like a dashboard, trying to integrate like, Is it trying to like help set up a cloud environment, or is it monitoring a cloud environment? What is it monitoring? And then you would throw it up onto a dashboard. Like anomaly detection, all that stuff. To address this, the tech team is working to develop methods that extend and enhance RAG. Microsoft's research's new approach, GraphRAG, creates a knowledge graph based on input corpus. Input corpus? Yes, okay. So you take an input, your input text is called your corpus, and then you give this to GraphRAG, GraphRAG will take this, maybe apply an AI model to help summarize, turn it into an actual concept, and then kind of like how we do with MCP or other tooling approaches, runs a series of functions or adds parameters to say, okay, I want to connect to this node, I want to connect to this node, this is the contents of my node, these are the relationships, blah, 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 right? Using an AI to kind of inject that knowledge. Although I'm not sure how they're actually determining what the relationships or content should be. I'm just assuming that they're using some sort of Gen AI to achieve this. This graph, along with the community, summaries, and graph machine learning outputs, are used to augment prompts at query time. GraphRAG shows substantial improvement in answering 2 classes of problems described above. Yes, yes. Demonstrating intelligence or mastery that outperforms other approaches previously applied to private datasets. Now, I'm actually kind of curious to see, because we have this concept of GraphRAG, but then there was another concept that I was talking about at the whole beginning of this arc called memtrees and hierarchical tree-like memory, where it starts off at the broadest scope at the root, then branches off into more specific scopes that more specifically define a person or a concept. I'm wondering if GraphRAG is actually an improvement over that or not, right? Because I remember reading in that paper, they were talking about stuff like the pitfalls of something like GraphRAG, how it doesn't really encode hierarchy into its structure. But I wonder how important hierarchy really is, especially when you can have nodes of more granular or more holistic views, and those just being connected by a directed edge or something like that. Because you can technically you can try and find something like a sink or a graph with the least amount of inputs and call that your sink starting point, and then consider that to be the root of your quote-unquote search tree. Depends on the data? I guess it really depends on the data, yeah. I wonder what would be better for a chatbot. I have a feeling that GraphRAG will be better for a chatbot just because it better mimics how the human brain works, right? Our human brain isn't really a one-way street, it is two-way, right? And so if you're considering each node as like a region of the brain or a section in memory, then it should be like bidirectional as well, not just like single tree direction. Would you want the memory to be dynamic or manually managed? I want it to be a mix of both. Mostly independently managed, but dynamically managed if you need to inject information about a new person you're collabing with, let's say, or a new game that we're going to be playing on stream, something like that. Or even just like giving her new knowledge of like, I don't know, new brain rot terms or something. What's the latest brain rot? GraphRAG process builds upon our prior research and tooling using graph machine learning. Graph machine learning. What the fuck is graph machine learning? The basic steps for GraphRAG processes are as follows. Slice up an input corpus into a series of text inputs. Okay. Or text units, which act as analyzable units for the rest of the process and provide fine-grained references in our outputs. So, kind of like the properties, I would assume. Not the labels, but the properties of that node. Extract all entities, relationships, and key claims from the text units. So these are actually the properties. And then you have the relationship, so what edges what other nodes it should connect to, and all the different, I guess, concepts within that text unit. So perform a hierarchical clustering of the graph using Leiden technique. Hierarchical clustering of the graph using Leiden technique. I'm not sure what this is, to be honest. To see this visually, check out figure 1 above. So something like this, right? The colored ones are one clustered. Each color is a cluster, which is basically what it's saying here. My only experience with that would be like making use of UMAP, so I really don't know how this works. Or the importance of why we even need to cluster in the first place besides visual representation. I guess you could do it like in terms of proximity. Closer things are more related to each other. I don't know. Hierarchical clustering using Leiden technique. Generate summaries of each community and its constituents from the bottom up. This aids in holistic understanding of the dataset. So yes, this is the accumulation step where it takes all the different blocks and then gives you a whole document summary, something like that. I would think you scope the main nodes at beginning of the stream and then set boundaries on what new nodes can be created and what relationships you add. That would be pretty cool, actually. You scope the main nodes at the beginning of stream? Well, I don't really want to limit the kind of knowledge she has per stream. I mean, like maybe I could do that, but it's not like, I feel like I would have more nodes included as opposed to not included, right? Because I do want her to have memories of what happened in previous streams and knowledge of what happened outside of the current stream, right? Make it feel like she actually lives in the world as opposed to only existing for that single stream. And set boundaries for what new nodes can be added and what relationships you add. The only problem I would have with that is like, I don't even know what the fuck what boundaries I would have in the first place. I can't do like a whitelist, blacklist because there's just too many, right? Wouldn't use this for memory. I would use this for something like lore management and her relationships. Yeah, that would be something better for like the manually managed part, right? But for the automatically managed part, I want her to decide those boundaries for herself and really not even have boundaries. She can do whatever the fuck she wants with that graph, to be honest, as long as it doesn't turn into, as long as I'm guiding it and making sure that it is well structured. You would use an LLM to set the boundaries. Use an LLM to set the boundaries. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the automatically managed portion of that would work at the moment. But for the manually managed portion, I don't know. That's kind of just up to you how you want to manually manage the memory. Querying. At query time, these structures can provide materials for the LLM context window when answering a question. The primary query modes are global search for reasoning on holistic questions, local search for reasoning about specific entities by fanning out of their neighbors, and drift search for reasoning about specific entities by fanning out of their neighbors and associated concepts, but with the added context of community information. I meant looking at a 100,000 node graph, wondering how to actually manage these. No. I'm not going to be managing the automatically generated one. I'll be managing the much smaller, much smaller, manually managed one. So that's basically just like a lore book, right? The manually managed one I'm thinking of is just like a manually managed lore book. The one that she automatically manages would be the ones with her actual memories that she decides to manage herself. Me questioning what's going on? Don't worry about it. Memories. Prompt tuning. Using GraphRG with your data out of the box may not yield the best possible results. We strongly recommend you fine-tune your prompts following the prompt tuning guide. So they are using an AI. Okay. So it's a lore maker. It's a bit of a lore maker, yeah. A lore maker as well as automatic memory storage. I don't fucking know. Versioning, Okay. Okay. I kind of want to spend a little bit more time offline familiarizing myself with Graph REG before I start fucking crying on stream about how to use it. I don't know. Actually, Lux, are you busy tomorrow? Tomorrow before stream? Nope. You wanna like hop in call later and then you can like explain to me stuff about Graph REG? Sure, I'm down. Alright, that sounds like a plan then. Alright, then what else do I want to talk about? I'll continue looking at REG stuff offline, but I think I get the idea of how Graph REG works now, right? Or not Graph REG, how knowledge graphs work. But what other knowledge graphs do we have that's possible? Because I remember seeing an MCP. Actually, let's check that out. There is an MCP that I saw about that uses knowledge graphs. I don't remember where it was though. MCP servers. Awesome MCP servers. Something about knowledge graph. Here we go. Reference servers, memory. Knowledge graph-based persistent memory system. Let's see what the fuck this is. We also have time, sequential thinking, Git stuff, file system, fetch, everything, reference test servers, prompts, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, let's check out what memory is. So a basic implementation of persistent memory using local knowledge graph. This lets Claude remember information about the user across chats. Okay. Entities are the primary nodes in the knowledge graph. Each entity has a unique name, entity type, so person, organization, event, and a list of observations. So this is what a node looks like, for example, and this has the name John Smith. This is a person, and their observation about this person is that they are fluent in Spanish. Sure. The relationships define direct connections like we saw before. These are always stored in active voice. Yeah, okay. Not sure how. Actually, how important is voice when it comes to prompting? Active voice versus passive voice. That's something I never actually considered. And probably does make a difference. Kind of like the use of you versus I inside of the prompts. I don't know. We have John Smith to Anthropic, and a relationship is works at. So this is basically like another node, but instead of being a node, describing a node, it's for an edge. And then observations. Observations are discrete pieces of information about the entity. They are stored as strings, attached to specific entities, can be added or removed independently. So these are like notes for a specific concrete object. So you can say John Smith, and then you have a list of observations. Okay. That's basically just caught, which modern models have built in a lot, but might be helpful in some cases. What do you mean caught? Caught. Chain of thought? Is this chain of thought? I don't think this is chain of thought. I thought chain of thought was like, explain your thinking. And then it would do some explanation of it and explanation as it works through the problem before it finally comes to a final result. I thought that was what chain of thought was. This isn't so much chain of thought, but rather just like graph traversal. I don't think they're really that related. I mean, like, maybe you can think of it as chain of thought by like looking at, oh, passive voice is like that, isn't it? Yes. Fuck man, I am not an English major. Passive voice versus active voice. Active voice. The dog is the subject. The dog chased the ball. Okay. And then I'm assuming passive voice is like the dog is chasing the ball. The ball was chased by the dog. No. Okay. Okay. So recipient, verb, sender versus sender, verb, recipient. I don't know. I don't think chain of thought has a specific format. I think it just depends on the model. Although I do think majority of them are active voice. Chain of thought. Technique used to improve reasoning abilities. Like, this is what thinking models do under the hood, right? Thinking models, before they actually start sending out their actual response, they do some quote-unquote thinking on the side. But within the thinking, it's literally just chain of thought, but that chain of thought isn't shown to the user. And then once it stops thinking, once it stops doing the chain of thought and actually starts responding with the answer, that's what you actually see. No. Passive voice is not internal monologue.
Luxionite gifted a tier 2 sub to Hokoklan. They have given 29 gift subs in the channel.
Jeez, 29 gifted subs. God damn. But yeah, no. Passive voice is just like a way of writing. A way of structuring a sentence. Active versus passive voice. Chain of thought is completely different. That chain of thought is just like thinking out loud, basically. And then thinking models, they think out loud, but then their thinking out loud is not shown to the user. This man made so much money off of me. So true. Lux is my sugar daddy. Make my pipes cheaper? I'm sorry, I can't do that. We live in a fair economy where everybody has to pay the same price. There is no bribing or secret incentives. We have the API. So this is like a general purpose knowledge graph, right? It isn't specifically built for AI personalities or stuff like that. But I guess like the personality would understand the relationships and try and add that to the knowledge graph. I mean, we could fine-tune the knowledge graph to be better suited for we can fine-tune the prompt for this knowledge graph in order to have it better match our use case. But I think, honestly, we could even use this MCP out of the box for our purposes, right? This creates entities, creates relationships, adds operations to that entity, And then usage in Claude Desktop, we don't really care about this because we can actually use this inside of Project JAISN using our MCP clients. Lots of MCP stuff right now is for dev stuff, by the way, like VS Code integrations. Yes. But like I said, MCP, you can add or not add whatever you want. There are going to be some stuff that will be relevant to us, kind of like this memory module, right? This memory module could be pretty useful for us in terms of just having a memory backend or a memory module. And this isn't very specific to like being a VS Code integration, right? This is just a generalized integration for any sort of chat client. And so given that Project JAISN technically is like a chat client, Project JAISN can make use of something like this, right? Because MCP at the end of the day, it is just a protocol and it's not really any different from just regular tool calling. And if I were to integrate this, if I was already going to integrate this as a normal like tool call for Project JAISON, why not just use the MCP server, right? This MCP server that already exists. But I'm curious as to what they're using as the actual database for this. Is this just plain text? There's no way this is just plain text. Also, this is TypeScript, so I will need to fix my computer to run this TypeScript project. Oh, but why are you always Docker index.ts? And then they included everything in a single index.ts file. I love it. And why can't you guys just like separate your projects into multiple files? I look at a single, every time I see a project where everything is written in a single file, I'm just like, how the fuck do you even function? How the fuck do you even navigate this? I feel like it's so hard to navigate a project if everything is just in the same file. Yeah, I'm just saying, some MCP stuff doesn't scale well. I mean, like, for persistent databases, it should be fine as long as they aren't storing things in just straight up plain text, right? Which is why I'm checking this right now. I want to see what kind of server they're using, if they're using an actual graph database, or if they're just storing things in plain text and then just doing a linear search through that. I see some that would work for coding, but not a VTuber. Yeah. Let's see. Memory file path. Okay. Memory file path. This is process.env memory file path. Okay, wait, hold on. Maybe it says it down in here. Building, 222, Docker, MCP memory, server memory, mcp.json, VS Code, compilation instructions. I just want to see the dependencies of this. Maybe that could give some insight. Dependencies. Just the MCP protocol. So I think they're implementing their own knowledge graph. And I'm gonna say there's a good chance that this is just plain text. This is just MCP, MCP, MCP. Promises is FS, path. Okay, this is their own file. Yeah, looks like it. Lol. Like, why the fuck do these guys keep storing their shit in plain text, man? This is not how you do persistent memory. This is how you fucking end up scaling. I guess they don't even, bro. These guys don't care about fucking efficiency. Embrace exponentials, as Karpathy said. Fucking hell, this is not the future I wanted. These fucking vibe coders, man. Just use a database. Where's my B trees at? Memory file path is just a file name. Put this in the same directory. Okay, interface. Yeah. Knowledge graph manager. Load graph. Promise is a large graph. So it's literally loading the entire graph into fucking memory. Ain't no way. Yeah, this is not gonna scale. This is not going to scale. It's reading okay, it is one file. It reads the entire file into memory, and this is just stored in plain text. I hate what MCP is becoming. Nothing is production usable, literally just dev tools. Exactly. It is literally just tools meant for... I don't think, okay, how much stuff is actually production ready? I don't think there's much, right? There are certain tools, sure, maybe production ready, but like none of that is scalable. Everything is meant to be run as like, okay, you boot up a single agent, right? And the single agent has its own MCP servers, and every person is given one agent one-to-one. That shit is like, they're just fucking abusing the fact that they have unlimited, quote unquote, unlimited resources, and they aren't considering the fucking cost of anything, I swear to God. I guess like, when it comes to running things locally, I guess like MCP does has its advantages in that it does simplify the whole deployment of things, given that you can just straight up deploy it from your process. I mean, it is still making another process, but like you don't have to really worry about managing that, I'd assume, and then specifying an API and everything. That's like the only good thing about it. Look at this. Linear search. Linear search. God damn. What the fuck is this? Bro, after 1,000 entries, I'm gonna be fucking like 1 gigabyte. 1 gigabyte of RAM gone. What the fuck is this? Okay, yeah, we are definitely not using this MCP. Holy, what the fuck is that? Honestly, I think for Project JAISON, I am just going to make my own CP servers. Like, some of these are just not it. Maybe for something like web searching, stuff that doesn't require me to store stuff on my system, I'll probably use their MCP servers. Like, what other ones do we have? There was one for Brave clients, right? Brave client for web searching. We got browser base, we have browser stack, we have just Brave. Huh. We don't include Brave here. Oh, Brave search. Alright, we can do something like with Brave search maybe. There is a Neo4j, I did see it. Right. Oh. I swear, I could have swore I saw it. Neo4j. MCP toolbox for databases. I mean, this is an integration with Neo4j. Oh yeah, but there's a direct Neo4j one here. So I guess that's an option. Do they have Graph RAG? Oh, they do. Cogni MCP. Wow, #1 repository of the day. Run Cogni's memory engine as a MCP protocol server. Cool. Is this local or is this using their servers that are running Graph RAG? Entry point message, readme, source, client, server. Yeah, there is a Docker image, but I don't know if that Docker image is making internet requests outward to a server of theirs or something. Let's search Cogni. Are they like a service? Cogni AI is an open source AI memory engine. For hosted beta. I'm assuming this is entirely local. As clone Cogni repo, navigate to Cogni, UV start, install all dependencies, activate virtual environments, set up OpenAI API key. God fucking damn it. Oh, no, don't do this. Let me use my samplers. No. That's another thing. Like, MCP has built-in support for samplers so that you can use your own AI models that are running locally in order to run this stuff. I don't want to add an OpenAI key or be forced to add an OpenAI key, even though I can, right? I can do this, but like, for the sake of this being, for the sake of having this be completely locally runnable, I don't want to do this. Let me use my fucking sampler that I spent so long integrating to use my own MCP models that I've spent so long making so that you can actually run it locally. Like, man. If you'd rather run Cogni MCP as a container, here are two things. Okay, so besides the fact that you have to add your OpenAI key, this should be entirely local, because it doesn't seem like you have to like add a Cogni API key or something like that, which is nice, right? I can spend next stream just playing around with GraphRG in a toy project and then try and integrate Cogni into Project AI, and that should be it. Is it a database engine though? It should be. This should be, because it's an MCP server, right? It should already include the engine and server if it's already providing an API. Because let's look here. Available tools, Cognify. Turns your data into a structured knowledge graph and stores it in memory. Yes. Codify. Analyze the code repository. Build a code graph and stores it in memory. Wait, is this only for code? It is a database engine. This is using GraphRG as their backend. I can't find it here, but that's how they do it. Oh shit.
Gear Twister underscore raided my stream with 23 viewers.
Gear Twister, thank you for the 23 viewer raid. Right, shout out people. I've never like actually done this. Shout out.
Gear Twister underscore is now following.
Gear Twister underscore. Yo, thanks a lot, bro. Haku brought you here? Classic Haku.
Jordic 100 is now following.
Classic Haku. Yeah. I was actually about to finish streaming like not too long from now. Hey, welcome Raiders, welcome. We are humble coders around here making the AI VTuber, although the AI VTuber right now is not running. And I'm probably just gonna save her for the next solo stream as a surprise for all her new changes and stuff like that. Yeah, we got a Discord, we got a YouTube channel. My main thing is YouTube, to be honest. But yeah, you can join the Discord server if you wanna be here for the next time she does a solo stream. Damn, even the TTS calls me Jordic. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Cogni is running using GraphRG, because that's what it described itself as. I'm not sure what else is it. My main thing is YouTube. How long has it been since you uploaded? Yo. We don't need to talk about that. There's been complications, okay? Complications in the production pipeline. If my computer didn't like implode 2 weeks ago, the video would have been out by now, I swear. But it's been like what? Playing Osu isn't Wait, I'm getting dyslexia reading that. Playing Osu isn't complications. You mean playing Osu doesn't count? Bro. It's been even longer since I fucking uploaded an Osu video in general. I was like fucking 3 years ago or something. But yeah, no, I think it's been like, oh my god, it's the 7th. It's the 7th month of the year, which means it's probably been 4 or 5 months since my last upload. Oh god. YouTube progs actually think I'm dead. YouTube progs think I quit Project JEI Sim. Fallen off? Oh my god. Not like this. It's been that long? It has been that long. When I uploaded my last video, that's when I gutted the plugins feature. That's when I gutted component plugins. And when was the last time we worked on that? Make a YouTube short saying I'm not dead, I'm just lazy. I could. I don't know. I'm not a shorts guy though. Bro, where the fuck does it say it uses GraphRIG? I swear I read it uses GraphRIG. Maybe it just uses many different backends and GraphRIG is just one of them. Drive results with semantic search and knowledge graph retrieval. Oh, and GraphRG turn data into answers now. Ah. GraphRG is just an approach. Oh, is it? I thought it was like an actual database. I go to nappy, but I hope stream goes well. Take care of my friends. All right, thank you, Gear Twister. Thank you again for the raid. Bye. Bye. But yeah, I'm guessing they are using GraphRAG as their method, but okay, I guess we do need to fucking check if they're storing things in plain text again. They really shouldn't be. They really shouldn't be. At least I'm hoping they aren't. Cogni. Seems like Cogni is... Let's see this. Core concepts. Gain a deeper understanding of the inner workings of the system. Pipeline data ingestion. Chunking, how it breaks down large data sets into manageable pieces to our efficient processing and analysis. Graph generation, ontologies. Tech shit. Tech shit. Node sets provides a very simple yet tagging system. Graph generate. The thing is, I don't even know how graph databases are supposed to be structured. Are they structured the same way as normal databases? Are they just like tables, but then the tables are like, the rows of each table are like special? Have like special attributes for saying adjacency or whatever. It's scary. No, it's scariness. It's not me using tables. I'm using a freaky ass shit. Freaky ass black magic. How Cogni handles chunking. I don't care about chunking. How the fuck does it store information? Tutorials, quick start, data points. Data points. Data point is a core building block to a knowledge graph. Each data point defines or no. I guess a better question is, okay. Databases, I guess you can consider them almost like plain text. They store the same amount of information, right? But it's just like, do they have indexing? Is the main question I want to know. Do they index their nodes, their entries, for like efficient searching? You will want optimizations, yes. But you can't optimize like an integer to anything smaller than an integer, right? So even if it's stored in plain text, that's still going to be as big as it is inside of the database. The database just makes it, sure, it might add some sort of compression to it, but the main thing is that there is indexing for more efficient searching, right? And so does this implement any form of indexing? Oh, would you look at that? Embedding and indexing. Metadata, embeddable data, fields listed in index fields are processed for vector embeddings. Okay, so they do. This seems like a more competent version of the last MCP server we saw, at least. You will have querying and caching and efficient I/O. People are terrible at making custom thingies. Okay. Caching and all that, yeah, that's a fair point. Architecture takes all of that data, ingests it, processes it, does some enrichment, has storage on the back end. Doesn't really say anything about what in the fuck is this graph? It doesn't look like they have a caching layer. Enrichment, this can adapt to something like Neo4j, a vector database, like LanceDB or ChromaDB. Oh, they do have a cache for Redis. Yeah, okay. How do I zoom in on this? How the fuck do I zoom in on this graph? Okay, you know what? Open image in new tab. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Fuck it. Hopefully you can see it, but in the corner there, I guess JEison's in the way. There is a section for cache memory and is labeled with Redis. So it seems like they do have some sort of caching layer. And their main database, GraphDB adapter, VectorDB adapter, they have two versions. One is using Neo4j or Qzoo. The other one is using, there's a bunch of different ones. Graph extraction. You can use any sort of backend, including locally runnable ones. And then the actual meta storage can be done in SQLite, Postgres, S3. Okay, it's interesting. It's interesting. I'll give it a closer look when I'm offline. Wonder if you can look into Docker image layers, see if it has Neo4j in it, or what? Okay, let's check that out. Dockerfile. Dockerfile, we have npm install ci. We don't have any layers per se, because this is just using a node container as its base. What about in tsconfig? Nothing there. Package.json. Dependencies is only the MCP protocol, whatever SHX is. Interesting. I don't even know how they're fucking connecting to anything, because the only thing they reference being connected is OpenAI through a token. But I'm assuming maybe it's built in. But then they don't even... I'm so confused by this. Oh wait, no, this is memory. No, fuck that. That's not the right one. That was the bad one. Here we go, Dockerfile. This one, GCR Python 3.12 bookworm. Okay, that's just a Python image. apt-get install, basic stuff. Entry point sh. What the fuck is Alembic? Your poor raiders thinking, what the fuck is this dude doing? Wizard shit. Wizard coder shit. I mean, that's how it feels like for like 99% of our viewers now. Like, I wonder what percentage of our viewers are actually actually coders versus people who are just here for the ride, here for the AI VTuber. Fair enough, fair enough. Literally, like half of our mods don't know how to code. You think the majority of our fucking fan base is going to be coders as well? I don't think so. And that's fair. Not everybody needs to code. What the fuck this guy doing? So true. Yeah, I don't see anything or anything interesting in here at least. Maybe inside of their dependencies, we'll find something. UV lock. What do you got in here? I swear they make the most dumb fucking package names I've ever. What is this? AIO Happy Eyeballs. Yes. What the fuck is this? AIO Happy Eyeballs. This library exists for allowing connecting with any happy eyeballs when you already have a list of address info and not. What is happy eyeballs? This is the most random sounding Python library I've ever heard of in my life. Okay, AIO HTTP. These are this is Python, right? Yeah, this should be Python. It's using UV. What the heck is this? CP Mac OS. What is this even for? I'm assuming that's AIO HTTP, SQLite, Alembic, NEIO, Argon, Async. Back off. Decrypt. Cache tool, Certifi, Beautiful Soup. Oh yeah, here's their Cogni package, and then they have their own dependencies. So we have Natural Language Toolkit, Onyx Runtime, OpenAI. Okay, so here's all their integrations. TikToken, RDFlib, RDF. Why the fuck did I say Sil and not Sil? Where is Sil? New name for husband unlocked. Ain't no way. Neo4j. Yeah, okay, so they do have integrations. It's kind of like, okay, so it's kind of like Project JE Ison, where they have integrations for different services, it seems. But they have options for third-party cloud run services, but you can also run it with completely local services. Because what is Kuzu? Kuzu DB. Embedded, scalable, blazing fast graph database. Is this? You can install it. As a scalable, runs in process, Cypher, open source, fully featured. AI and data ecosystem. Issue tracker and response time. Is this locally ran or how is this working? Kuzu. I'm assuming this is locally runnable. Because you can install it here, right? I'm not going to install it right now because I don't want stream to lag. Create your first graph. Tutorials. Use client APIs, developer guide. Building it from source. Testing framework. Import data, export data, copy to Parquet, migrate your database, You can migrate databases between different versions of Kuzu without manually writing DTL or copy statements. To perform migration, you should first export the database from an existing Kuzu version using export database. Okay. Yeah, this seems to be locally runnable. Okay, so Cogni, I'm gonna make a note of this. I'm gonna copy this into my notes. But Cogni, we can run this entirely locally, right? You can use Kuzu as your local graph database. You can use pgvector with Postgres as your, or SQLite as your local metadata database. And then you can, Redis is entirely local. You can use Ollama, LM Studio, Llama CPP as your AI backend. And all that other stuff should be fine. We don't need to use OpenAI. We don't need to use Neo4j. We don't need to use all that other random crap. This is doable. This is doable. 5 o'clock. I think, yeah, this might be where we ended off for today. I need to go and continue fine-tuning J.E. Ison's new model. Fucking hell. Okay, I have so much data I need to fine-tune on. I literally need to run the training for this model for 48 hours continuously. And during that time, I can't do anything else on my computer. So, well, I'm just gonna go take a walk or something for the next 2 days. Oh wait, no, I have to stream tomorrow. I have to stream tomorrow still. And tomorrow we're gonna be, I guess, checking out Cogni. Yeah, checking out Cogni and trying to integrate this into a toy project or something. What data are you training on? I guess it's fine for me to show. Kaggle Discord. I originally tried. No, not this one. Data set. I originally, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I originally tried training off of a conversation I was having with J.E. Ison and then trying to clean that up. But there was just so much garbage in that conversation that it became unusable. And so I needed a ton of conversation data, and I needed it to be actual conversation data that was clean. And so I decided to just use Discord data, which is a data set that I downloaded maybe a year ago. And I made my original video fine-tuning a model for J.E. Ison using that, but I did it really shittily, right? I didn't fine-tune it that well. I trained it with too little iterations, too small of a data set, and not diverse enough of a data set. But this time I changed it. Now I have 300,000 samples of actually clean conversation. And, well, let's just say that it'll take me 48 hours to go through one entire epoch. So going through all 300,000 samples just once. Limit cat eat redeem? Bro, I am not eating a cat, even if I'm Asian. Like, let's settle down there for a second. But yeah, I'm using this data set. It has a ton of data in here, like 85 gigabytes worth of data or something. I used the cleaned down version, one that doesn't have all the spam, and then I processed it. I took random samples from it and processed it into a shared GPT kind of fine-tuning format. And then I'm using the Alpaca prompt format for the actual LLM, because really the chat completion that we're doing is just Alpaca format, right? One instruction, that's the system prompt, one user input, that's the script, and then JEI's response, and then you just reiterate on that every single time, right? That's how Project JEISON works. So Llama Alpaca prompt, that works completely fine. But yeah. So far, last night I did manage to get it working, where she was able to stop generation properly, as well as respond decently with the expected responses that I was looking for, like good tone, personality, and not throwing in a bunch of random shit. But the smaller model didn't perform well. And so now I'm training it for the full 48 hours, and well, we'll see how that goes. So far, I tested the one that was done after 22,000 iterations. That one seemed okay. But we'll see after the whole 80,000 iterations how that goes. But yeah. Should we find someone else to raid? Double it and pass it on to the next person? Let's see who we should raid. Give me a second. Who are we raiding today? All the people I normally raid aren't online right now. What about... What about... No, you're offline. No, you're offline. Who the fuck do I raid? Haku. Haku, find me somebody to raid. You know what? Let's find another random VTuber and just raid them. Uname, you guys want to watch a Osu VTuber? Sure, sure. All right. At time. Did they just FC? Did they just no? They didn't FC. All right. Enjoy the raid, everybody. Double it, pass it on to the next person. And I'll see you all tomorrow, where we're going to be trying to add Cogni and whatever to Project JEISON. And then the stream after that next week, hopefully, JEISON should be ready for actually, for her solo stream with all the new models and stuff. Oh, you ended the stream, Saj? It's alright. I'll see you all next time. Enjoy the raid, and yeah, bye.